my own. I leaned into entrepreneurship because I saw a gap. The law, it felt uncomfortable. It felt chaotic. It felt cold. It felt disconnected. So I created a legal practice rooted in clarity, rooted in strategy and ownership, and not just legalese. You have to be asking yourself, why am I telling you this? Because you get to decide what kind of lawyer you will be. And that decision is more powerful than any job offer or firm name on a door. Let me share something that doesn't get said enough in rooms like this. Being a lawyer is not about what you do, it's about who you are. Law school, it taught you how to find information, but the practice of law will ask you to use it, not just to win arguments, but to give people something far more valuable: a voice, a fighting chance, an opportunity to be heard, an opportunity to be seen. And more than anything, you now have a duty to discern the difference between truth and an opinion dressed up as truth. And in a world full of noise, your license is a scalpel. Learn how to cut through it. You don't have to know everything, but you have to be clear about what is real and what is truth. This career, it will be tempting. They will try to polish you. They will polish you so much that you will forget who you are. But let me remind you, you were never meant to stay clean. You have always been meant to be dirty. You were meant to dig deep into the cases, into the systems, and into the truth. You were meant to rise resiliently after the loss, after the no, after the moment you almost quit. You were meant to dig to discover treasures buried in dirt, beneath your grit, beneath your failures, and beneath your refusal to give up. You don't owe this profession your silence. You owe it your brilliance. You owe it your backbone. You owe it the truth that comes from living a little, breaking a little, healing a lot, and still standing. Because this is not a gentle career, but it is a sacred one. And if you dare lead with purpose over ego, strategy over struggle, and execution over excuses, you won't just practice law, you will change it. So here's your dirty anthem. D, dig deep. Go beyond the surface to uncover what matters. I, ignite growth. Fuel your practice with courage, strategy, and momentum. R, rise resiliently. You will fall, but get back up. T, treasure discovery. Find the diamonds in your buried journey. Y, yield results. Let your work speak louder than your words. Just be dirty. Because greatness is not forged in the mud, it's forged in the journey. Now, from here, go and take your place, not just at the tables, but in the trenches. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to adopt the mindset of being dirty. Congratulations and welcome to the profession. With the court's permission, I move for the admission to the Bar of Maryland, the candidates seated before you. I request that the candidates in your pre-assigned numerical order please stand individually, announce your full name, and then resume your seat. Let's get dirty.
Eric James Alburn.
Benjamin Christopher Alston.
Charlene Edison.
Dave Gupta. Sharon Fidel Mastrosky.
Emma Grace Valentine.
Jason Michael Barnes.
Victoria Denise Bowling.
Andrew Joseph Bradley Jr.
Warren Michael Buff.
Emily Laurel Cannon.
Andres Roel Castillo.
Karen Isabel Serena. Rachel Goodwin Clare. Olga Victoria Colasico. Rachel Elizabeth Conrad.
Mason Ross Cummings.
Gabriel Sebastian Brooke.
Carmine Natalie Daniel.
Landon Michael King. Thomas Edward Margot. Ali Islam Chia.
Katrine Melita Dixon. Alisa Flamiana Dolanowski. Savannah Lee Duncan.
Fernando Varela.
Mordechai Vergeer.
Cecia Elena Fuentes. Ariana Isabella Preston. Madeline Rochford Royal.
Jessica.
Rachel Tarver. Eleni Nikos Ajipatali. Megan Elena Aaron.
Nicholas Andrew Knowles.
Sneha Papa Henry. Taylor Ann Hughes. Sydney Daniel Hughes. Sandra Joy Jesse.
Alexander Jordan Carpenter.
Salon Kate Kuma.
Jessica Charisse Arthur Wilcott. Courtney Ruth Tobias. Ellie Gossip. Amanda P. Horn. David Gabriel.
Thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Richardson, for those inspiring remarks and for your motion. As the other members of the court ponder Ms. Richardson's motion, I will now turn to Justice Killow for a response from the court.
Good morning, colleagues and honored guests, and above all, the newly amended members of the bar. I'm just glad I didn't have to go immediately after April, so a little bit of a break, so thanks for that. It's both a privilege and a solemn duty to welcome you to this profession. You join at a moment when our system of justice faces fresh tests, and as you will discover, those tests demand your skill, your courage, and your integrity, or as Fred April says, to get dirty. When I spoke here in December at the last admission ceremony, I told the new admittees that law is the most important profession in our republic. I meant it then, and I mean it now. And I humbly submit that those words have been proven to be true. I just didn't think of it. Everyone talks about it all the time, about how important lawyers are to our system. We have a democracy. It's based on the rule of law. So you, as officers of the court, are the guardians of that system. And we've seen executive orders aimed at prominent law firms. My friends are at a lot of these law firms. We've seen orders that suspend security clearances, terminate government contracts, and threaten lawyers for their past associations. We've witnessed EEOC investigations into the hiring practices of private law firms. We watch government lawyers effectively barred from participating in bar associations. We've seen clients drop their law firms, because of political reasons. These are not just news items that we see on TV or they're a distraction, and as lawyers walk into the profession, these are important to you. These are part of your continuing concerns. And when you hear things like this, you'll start to pay attention, maybe not more so today than you did yesterday. These are warnings that the independence of lawyers are under a strain. Make no mistake, pressures on our professions are not new. Time and again, lawyers have been on the front lines when liberty is at risk. During the McCarthy era, during that paranoid period, attorneys who defended accused communists were branded subversives, blacklisted, and even disbarred, some of them. Some were prosecuted simply for upholding their clients' constitutional rights. Yet they persisted, and in doing so reaffirmed that every person deserves a vigorous defense. During the civil rights struggles, in Jim Crow South, lawyers like Thurgood Marshall risked their lives to challenge segregation. They were arrested at highway checkpoints, vilified by local officials, and threatened by mobs. Their courage under fire transformed our laws and opened the doors to justice for millions. Even in the Watergate era in the 1970s, a scandal taught us that lawyers can be instruments for both good and for ill. Some White House counsel lawyers broke laws, others blew the whistle. The results were a wave of ethical reforms, proof that when we hold ourselves to high standards, our profession can correct its course. More than anything else, history warns us never to take our roles as officer of the court for granted. As my friend April said, you are now part of joining the guardians of this system that I think is vital and critical to our way of life. As you stand here today ready to take your oath, know this: you are officers of the court entrusted with preserving the very foundations of our democracy. I don't think that's just a cool thing people say. I mean, as a former trial court judge and lawyer, I remember standing in a courtroom watching juries and watching the rule of law at work, watching lawyers advocate vigorously for their clients, watching state attorneys and federal prosecutors advocate vigorously on behalf of the United States. And I've seen everyday citizens who come up on the street, take an oath to sit on the jury, and to mete out justice. It is an incredibly important system for our way of life. So I hope that you take this to heart, and I think you will, as I did. Lest you think this is not a big deal, it's just another, check mark you put on your list. I assure you it's not. And I'm going to read you an excerpt of a letter from a Maryland lawyer who 40 years ago took his oath. He took his oath seriously, and he resigned from his law firm after they capitulated in advance to settle a claim with the administration. This is what his letter says. He says, "When I was admitted to the bar, I swore an oath not only to support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and to Maryland, but also critically to uphold the honor and dignity of the legal profession. In my view, society licensed us with the privilege of practicing law and of earning a livelihood from the practice of law, in exchange for a solemn, non-negotiable commitment to preserve and fight for our system of laws, without which lawyers have no purpose or reason to exist." He goes on to write in his resignation to his law firm, "The individual and institutional price we lawyers will have to pay and the sacrifices that we will have to make to hold the line against what he considered to be overreach from the administration may be enormous, but I view them as commitments we have made when we became lawyers. I believe we either pay the price and fight, or we forfeit our license and moral right to practice law." He resigned from the law firm, Wall Street type law firm that he loved, because of the oath he took in this room. Not 40 years ago, about 33 years ago. But the point is made is that he took his oath seriously, not just on the day he took it, but 33 years later, he still takes his oath seriously. So the oath you're about to take is not to be taken lightly. Your license is more than a credential. It's a pledge of service. Now, April Richardson took the same, oath you took in 2002. And as she mentioned, I want to thank April. Her entire career has been marked by public service. She was a former prosecutor. She was a federal prosecutor. She led investigation teams for the federal government. So she had that side of her life. Now you heard the other side of her life, where she sort of went through the process that we all sort of dreamed of. She was a leader in prosecuting cases for state and federal, and state and federal system. So she serves to this day. Not only is she an entrepreneur, and she has a beautiful company which makes beautiful cakes and does her law practice. She serves as a member of the Judicial Nominating Commission in Prince George's County, that she helps select future judges in Prince George's County. So there's a lot of ways you can serve as an attorney. You don't have to just necessarily serve by representing clients. You can serve on boards. You can serve in bar associations. A lot of things you can do. And April is an example of a person who takes the time to serve the legal community and to serve the state. Thank you, April, for speaking today, and all that you've done for me and all that you've done for our profession. Now, if you'll allow me, I'll offer 3 pieces of advice as you begin your careers. And I have to admit, I didn't put them in the pneumatic, the dirty. So let me see if I can. Never stop learning is one of them, which is a D maybe. Is that the D probably? The D. Never stop learning. Law school gave you the fundamentals. Experience will teach you nuance. Read broadly. Literature. I guess my last speech I gave I mentioned about Dick the Butcher, and from a Shakespeare, Henry VI part 2. I spared you that for this time, but it was, in that play they were talking about how, and Shakespeare was saying, the first thing we do is kill all the lawyers, and everybody says, oh, that's a funny thing to say, kill all the lawyers. Let me show lawyers are a pain in the butt, and lawyers are a nuisance. But really, if you read that play, you realize that he said that in the context of a revolution, in context of a rebellion against the crown. And his view was, if you got rid of the lawyers, you can make it easier to pull off the revolution and the revolt. So never stop reading. You never know where literature gets you. You can say something cool like that at a admission ceremony 30 years later. Commit to civility. I'm not sure where that is is that the R maybe?
Just make it up. We're lawyers.
We see this every day on the Supreme Court, and I've seen it every day of my career. Civility gets you far in this profession. You can be right, and you can be humble, and you can understand that your opposition is not the enemy. They're representing their client the same way you're representing your client. Zealously to the best of your ability. So civility goes a long way in our profession. We see it on the Supreme Court. I saw it as a trial court judge. I saw it as a lawyer. Civility is earmarked of this profession, and I hope that you will live up to that. What I also said last time, and I think it was true, is that your reputation is the most valuable thing you have. Your law degree is cool. Where you went to law school is cool. That may get you a cup of coffee somewhere. But the most important thing is your reputation. That is the most important thing you possess. Treasure it, protect it. You don't want a reputation for being uncivil. You don't want to have a reputation for taking shortcuts. You don't want to have a reputation for shading the truth. Your reputation is all that you have. My advice is to protect it as if it's the crown jewel, because it really is. And stand on principle. You'll where's that? Stand on principle. You will face pressures from clients demanding shortcuts, from peers urging you to compromise your principles. Just remember, again, principle is the most important thing. As you go into this profession further, and as you practice law more, you'll understand more that the principle goes along with your reputation. It's important to stand on principle and not have a reputation as a person who will, go along to get along, so to speak. So it's your turn. You don't have to remember everything I shared. You probably remember everything that April shared, but you don't have to remember everything I shared. Just remember that this is a very important job, the most important job, I believe, in our republic. So congratulations on your admission to the bar. We welcome you not only as practitioners, but as stewards of justice. We look forward to what you will achieve in defending the vulnerable, challenging the powerful, and keeping alive the promise of liberty under law. With that, I am pleased to inform you that after careful consideration and some hand-wringing, that the court has granted the motion, and the clerk, Mr. Gregory Hilton, will now administer the oath. Thank you.
Please stand. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will at all times demean myself fairly and honorably as an attorney and practitioner at law. That I will bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland and support the laws and Constitution thereof. and that I will bear true allegiance to the United States, and that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution, laws, and government thereof as the supreme law of the land. Any law or ordinance of this or any state, to the contrary notwithstanding. Congratulations.
As much time as you all spent on the back of your heads this morning, there are people who would probably prefer to see your faces with cameras behind you. So see if you can turn around for just a moment and find a friendly camera. Sorry for those in the front row. Okay. On behalf of the court, congratulations. Attorneys now newly admitted to practice in the state of Maryland. You may be seated for just a moment more. No longer candidates, you have been admitted and sworn at the end of a long journey. Being a lawyer is a privilege and a responsibility. Representing clients is a privilege and a responsibility. Clients will now depend on you to be their advisors, their counselors, their advocates, their voices. Courts, including this one, will depend on you to advocate effectively while also exhibiting the highest standards of ethics and professionalism. In admitting you today, we are expressing our confidence that you will live up to those lofty standards. With that, there is only one thing left for you to do, which is to sign the clerk's test book. You will be signing volume 14 of the test book. Mr. Hilton is holding up volume 1, which dates back to 1916. We actually did have test books before 1916, but that's when Mr. Hilton's predecessors discovered sequential numbering. Volume 16, it was a little slower pace back then, so volume 1 covers the time period up through, I believe, 1937, which includes the time when Justice Marshall signed in 1933. So when you sign, Mr. Hilton will have the page open to where Justice Marshall signed, so you can see that and understand the tradition that you are becoming part of in being admitted to the bar today. So thank you again to everybody who has supported you along the way. Congratulations. We can't wait to see what you do with your law degrees. And let's give another round of applause. The court will now stand adjourned until 11 o'clock this morning.
All rise.
For the parents and friends, you can start filtering out. You can go down to the